Everyone's having a good evening. I am Kesidrith, and I'm going to be speaking again tonight on the hero system, in particular on creating some strange, unusual, or complicated builds of magic items using the 5th edition hero system rule set. Now, want some things to get out of the way up front. Number one, this is not a game I'm streaming. Not trying to do anything that bold or brave or anything like that. This is just me streaming about the hero system rule sets and trying to show what can be done with the rules. I am working with the 5th edition, as mentioned, rule set. There is a 6th edition out there. I don't know that much about it. I have a feeling that it's not too terribly different. I do know that they got rid of some things from the 5th edition and added others. But I really don't know, and I can't speak intelligently on 6th edition, so I'm not going to try. Um, Next, I also use this nice piece of software called Hero Designer 6. It can be found at herogames.com. So if you get interested watching this video in the Hero system game RPG system, I recommend both getting it and this piece of software, Hero Designer 6. It will make character creation and some bookkeeping and other issues within the system work much more smoothly for you, some of which you will see tonight as I work on a few of these magic items. That said, I think that's it. The only other thing I need to mention is for a few of these items, there are definitely multiple ways of doing them. Multiple ways that are perfectly within the realm of the build within the rules that they could be done. But I'm going to be showing you how I would build them. And if there are any questions, comments on that, by all means, track me down on YouTube as Kesidrith, um, just as I am here. And feel free to post comments on this video, which I'll be uploading to YouTube as well. So with that in mind, the first item I would like to build is one that I've tried building and working with. Um, the multiple times I've tried to do this stream before, and that is a quiver of mini arrows, I'm going to call it this time. I'm going to make most of these things as prefabs, which prefabrications, which means I can call them up and use them and load them onto a character sheet at another time. I need to make sure that the current template is 5th edition rules and heroic, and for whatever reason it didn't save my changes. Quiver of many arrows. I will discuss what it does in just a second. Okay, how about now? The quiver of many arrows is essentially a normal quiver that holds arrows. It's the same size, shape, look, everything else, but it holds many more arrows than what you would conceivably believe. Instead of the 10 to 12 that the normal quiver would hold, I'm going to make this one hold 64. And so that leads into, sorry, leads into how I'm going to build this, which is as a naked advantage, because charges normally a limitation if you put enough charges on them because they don't cost endurance. Things that run off charges don't normally cost endurance. So if you put enough charges on there, it goes from being a limitation, a disadvantage on the power, to an advantage on the power. I'm going to create it as a naked advantage. It is going to apply to bows, and I'm going to set it as the base power costs the maximum points in a bow, which is 65, a 2d6 plus 1 killing attack. Um, and so, trying to collect my thoughts here. Um, I need, so that the charges will apply to any and all bows, it to be up to that 65 point naked advantage. And we're going to call it that. We're going to have it weigh about 2 pounds, so that's about 1 kilogram. And there we go. And the naked modifier we need is an advantage, but we won't see charges there. Charges is normally a limitation. Oh, but there's no limitations. So we come here to unavailable limitations, and we look down, and there's charges. The reason why it's unavailable is because a character can only use this power with this limitation a certain number of times per day. So normally, as I've mentioned, it's a limitation. We can do a force add, however, and as I said, I'm going to set it to take 64 charges, which now makes it a plus 1/2 advantage, and I'm going to make it recoverable charges because you can go and pick up your arrows after the fight, right? So that now makes it a plus 1 advantage, and there we go. We've put our naked advantage into the system. Now, because it is a quiver, it does have other advantages and limitations. Well, okay, it doesn't have any advantages on it, but it does have limitations. First and foremost, it is a focus. It is an obvious accessible focus, OAF. It is obvious because there it is, it's a quiver. It is accessible because it can be snatched, grabbed, jerked off of you, things like that. And we're going to make it breakable but durable. And bam. And that will be the only limitation we need on that thing. So with that in mind, we can click done there. And we see that this is actually real cost as well as active point cost. Actually a fairly potent item for the fact that it just holds 64 arrows. But that's a quirk of the system, and part of why I make it as equipment, and also don't tend to recommend that people buy magic items at the start of their character. But we are done there, and so bam, we have our quiver of mini arrows. So we're going to save prefab as, and I already put out there as quiver of endless arrows, but we're going to call it quiver of mini arrows, and I'm going to go back and delete the other file at some point in the not too distant future. And bam, we've created our first unusual magic item, a quiver that can hold 64 arrows in the space of a normal quiver instead of the normal 10 to 12. So there we go, and we can close that one out. That was quick and easy for such a weird build, right? All right, for the next one, we're going to do the Epinymous Bag of Holding. I call it that because it is pretty much everywhere. Ubiquitous would be a better term. Almost every type of fantasy setting, whether it be a modern setting or what have you, there's some type of bag that appears that holds more than what it would seem to be able to hold, and allows you to carry it easily no matter how much it weighs and things like that. So that's what we're going to do, and that gets into how I'm going to build it. Again, I want to make sure that it's got the proper template, 5th edition rules heroic, and it does, because I ran into some problems with that the last time I tried to do this show. All right, so the way I'm going to do a bag of holding, since it allows you to carry more than you normally can, is I'm simply going to make it strength. I'm going to make it give you an extra 20 points of strength. Now, keep in mind that doesn't sound like a whole lot, but keep in mind that 20 is maximum human strength. So think of the strongest person you absolutely can, and this bag adds his level of strength to you as far as what you can carry. So, and we'll call it the Bag of Holding. 20 strength. We'll make it weigh or have a mass of 1 kilogram again. And now we get to add some modifiers. And we do need some modifiers on this one. One is reduced endurance, because this thing does not normally cost you, it doesn't add to the strain of carrying these extra items that you want to carry in the bag. And I think that's pretty much it on the advantages. Okay, so now we go back, and again, it is a focus. So this time, it is an obvious or inobvious but accessible focus. In other words, it looks like a normal bag, so it's not obvious that it's anything spectacular or anything like that until somebody sees you push it in, and it is accessible in that it can be, again, snatched, grabbed, torn away from you, and so forth. We're going to make it breakable but durable, and bam. And let's see, what else do we need? Oh yes, no figured characteristics. Okay, normally strength affects a couple of characteristics called figured characteristics, namely your physical defense and your stun. Setting that limitation on this 20 points of strength makes it where, nope, you don't get any other benefit. And we do need one other limitation. And that is one that limits about a third of the thing, of the power, only for carrying objects. I should say, it could say weight, but we'll call it objects. You got to be able to put it in the bag. Okay. Done. And actually, let's put that as on there as a limiter as well. Actually, that would be a limiter. Limitations, another limited power. This one's not too limiting though. Objects must be able to fit in bag. All right, now we're done. Hello, Wondergoon. I'm kind of glad to see you here. You keep me straight. So here we go with our 20 strength. There are definitely other ways of building this object, this item. You could, for instance, build it as an extra dimensional movement. It moves the objects into extra dimensional space. It could be built as a transforms object out of bag to object in bag. Transports object, an opposite transform of transports object from in bag to object out of bag. And just loads of things like that. But to me, it's what the bag does is it adds to your ability to carry weight. So with that in mind, this seems the simplest, most obvious, straightforward way of doing it. So once again, we'll save. And I think I already have this one saved as well. Yep, but we're going to save over it. And that one's done. So that's a quiver of mini arrows and a bag of holding. And now where we usually break down, because the gods of the internet didn't appear to want me to build this item. So knock on wood here. But boots of varied tracks. All right, what these are, let's get a description out of the way first, are boots that change the track you leave behind. So instead of a big booted human-sized footprint, you could be leaving behind a fox's footprint, or a bird footprint, or a deer track, or something like that. So in other words, it makes it harder for others to track you. So with that in mind, to me, that means that it's a skill versus skill contest. So with that in mind, we come here to the equipment and go to the skills, and we find tracking, and we're just going to make our boots of varied tracks be a tracking skill that you get in a skill versus skill contest against others, people trying to track you, trying to follow you. So with that in mind, we'll make them also weigh about 1.5 kilograms. Actually, no, about 1 kilogram. Boots aren't that heavy. All right. And right now it costs 3 active points. I'm going to add a couple of levels to it because these boots should really make it hard for you to be tracked. And so now we'll add our modifiers, advantages. There's none of these that really work. You could definitely also use images, though that would be some lingering effects that would images, bottom line, create an image of things, so it could lay down an image of the tracks, but it would fade over time. So this, to me, makes it more permanent. But you could do it with images as well, yes. Let's see what we need. Focus. This one I'm going to make an inobvious, inaccessible focus because it's inobvious that these things are anything other than boots. They're inaccessible and that somebody's got to knock you down and drag those boots off of you. So they're not exactly where they can just be snatched or grabbed away from you. We will again make it breakable but durable. And the focus limitation is taken care of. Is there any of this rest of this? Nope. That looks like it. So again, these aren't too expensive, but they're up there. But in the end, what you now have is a 14 or less on 3 dice 6. You have rolled 3 dice 6. The total of it needs to be 14 or less. And for every 2 points you make the roll by, so for instance, if you rolled a 10, you've made the roll by 4 points. So for every 2 points, the tracker trying to follow you gets -2 to their roll. Gets -1 to their roll for every 2 points you made it by. So in our case example of you rolled a 10, they would be at -2 to try to track you. So, and that's without any other circumstances needing to be involved. So there we go. So save prefab as, and we'll call it boots varied tracks. Ah, Wondergoon, see, you keep me straight. I agree. We need to put another limitation on there, limited to woodland creature tracks only. So it wouldn't help you in the city, for instance. So add modifier, limitations. Now that's not much of a limitation, so I'm not going to really put it on there. But let's see, how did you put it? Tracks of woodland creatures only. And so now I think we're done. So, just looking at it again, though, drop the real cost to 9 points. The active cost is 13. So, not a bad little magic item there. And we'll save the prefab again. And I think we're done with that one. So, we're rolling right along here. And that was pretty nice. And so the next one is kind of one we've been over before, but in a new way. And this one is a vest of giant strength. Now, in a previous one of these videos, I've gone over how to make a item of giant strength that adds strength to to the character. So, plus 35 strength. Well, if you already had a 15, that would mean you'd have, let's see, what, 35 plus 15 is 45. That would give you a 50 strength. What this item is going to do, and how it's different from those items, is that this one gives you a certain strength, period. So in this case, let's say it's going to give you a 35 strength, and that's it. Okay? And so that's exactly what we do. And we're going to assume and make an ass out of you and me, right? We're going to once again start it off as just strength. But we want it to give you a 35 strength, and that's it. So we want to give a little more strength than than a normal human would have. So we're going to make it give you 30 strength. We're going to have it weigh half a kilogram. All right. And now the normal human would put this on, and if we left it as it is, they would get a 40 strength because the average human has 10 strength. That's not what we want to do. We want to cut it off at 35. Okay? So why did you add 30 strength? Just add 25 there. Okay? Well, you still got the problem of a human can have up to 20 strength on their own, and that would give them let's see, what is it, 45 strength there. So we still have to do some work on this. So with that said, stream is buffering. Great. Well, my upload speeds have been fairly low, but there's not much I can do about it from my end. It's not canceling, at least. It's not dropping down to 500 kilobits per second like it did the last time I tried this. So we're going to soldier on as well as we can. All right, but the end result is we need to put on some advantages and limitations. The advantages here, I don't think any of them are actually applicable. But limitations. Again, I'm going to say it's an inobvious, inaccessible focus. It just looks like a vest. It's going to be breakable but durable again. All right. And let's see. Once again, we're going to give it no figured characteristics. It just makes you stronger. It doesn't make you tougher or hardier or any of these things. So we're once again going to give it no figured characteristics. And then we're going to come back to the nice limited power. And again, this one isn't going to be too limiting because most people are going to get up to but the average person isn't going to well, they are going to slam against this a little bit, but not much. But we're going to make it a limitation of only up to 35 strength. I think that's what I put it in there. Yes. All right. So are there any of the other limitations or modifiers we need? Nope. I believe that gets it. Well, we can add one thing, and we could have added it to all the others. And that is, and I don't see it again, which usually means okay. So it should be available. There it is. Independent. Now, I didn't put it on the others, and I could go back and do so, but What independent does is it makes it where the item, the points involved in the item are losable. It means you can lose the item and lose any of these points that you put into the item. So in creating this item, um, somewhere, somehow, experience points, if you will, were put into it. And if you were the creator, that means that yes, you can lose those points that you put into it. But that's not necessarily the true case. Sometimes experience points can come from the ingredients that go into it and things like that. But independent basically is a limitation that means you can lose those points permanently, forever. They're gone. Bye bye. In fact, if the GM is being proper and doing what he should be doing, or she, what they should be doing, just use the neutral pronoun there. If they're doing what they should be doing, you will lose those points. So independent is not something to be put on anything lightly, because those points are going to go away soon, sometime, at some point. Count on it. And a lot of people have trouble with that. So there we go. So now you have a vest that gives you plus 30 strength. None of the other advantages from it other than you can now punch harder, you can carry more, and things like that. But it also only goes up to 35 strength. So if you had a 20 strength, you could put on this vest and you're not going to get 30 more points of strength. You're only going to get 15, bringing you up to the 35 limit. And so that's how an item like this would be made, where you're giving a set amount of strength, or something like that, or constitution or something to a character instead of just adding on to what they already have. There is a limit to how strong this vest can make you. All right, so with that in mind, save prefab as vest giant strength. And we've done another one. Yay. See what I'm saying about this nice Hero Designer 6 software? It takes a lot of the stickiness, the trickiness, the math out of your hair. It takes care of it for you. And again, can be picked up at herogames.com. And I can't recommend it enough. I really can't. So the next thing is a nice little ring that is an incredibly simple build, but it's not one you see too often come up. And that is a ring of warmth. Seriously, this one is an odd build, not a complicated one, because all it takes is coming down here to the power called, where is it? Where's the else? Life support. And putting safe and intense cold. Bam. Well, we've got to edit it because we want some limitations on this and some advantages, maybe. And nope, the advantages are taken care of, but it is a focus. It is an inobvious, inaccessible. Again, it's a ring, just looks like a ring. Just a second, Wondergoon. I'm going to actually leave this unbreakable. All right, so you're asking about the set effect for the vest. I'd never thought about that. You probably could. uh, is that a limitation? I don't see it. Um, hmm. Moving on with this one, though. Let's see, what else might we need on there? Again, we can put independent on it, but we really don't need it. And yep, I think that's it. So we're done. So it's a focus. that gives you life support, safe and intense cold, keeps you warm, in other words, and we're done. And if you were buying this um, on your own, it costs you 2 character points, and it's only 2 active points. So this is a really cheap item. And now I'm going to show you how to call something back. Oops. Just a second, Wondergoon, and we'll answer your question. And close it out. We're going to open a prefab. We're going to open our vest back up. Oh, I see what you're saying now. And it doesn't look like it. It does not look like there's a set effect. Setting on this thing. Uh, Nope. Hmm. Okay. Let's try that. Maybe learning something new myself. But nope, that doesn't bring up anything. So, yeah. So it's set to do not add to totals. And yeah, there's still no set effect. I'm missing something here, apparently. Nope. I've honestly never seen set effect come up as an option. DDT. Sure. I mean, we're playing around with this, so absolutely. Uh, so yeah, no. So it's not under limited power either. Maybe conditional? Nope. So I hate to say it, but I'm not sure where the set effect would come in. Huh. So I'm gonna move on, I guess. If we come up with something else, we'll go back and take a look at this one. But the next one is a complicated build. We're going to call this one Staff of Mages. And this one is going to be complicated because it's going to get into what we call power frameworks. In particular, a multi-power. And so there's a certain number of powers that this thing can do just because. And so looking at them to set how many points we put in the multi-power. We're going to put 15 points in this multi-power. And it needs to be some limitations that are on all of the powers. Primarily, it is a focus. It is an obvious accessible one. It is we're going to make ours unbreakable. I know the one in D&D is breakable, but I can honestly say I don't know how to do that one. Um, Short of going into some really roundabout stuff. So we're going to make it a focus. And I think that's all we need necessarily. We may come back to that. But bam. Okay. And so those permanent powers are one is a detect magic. And so we come in here to enhance senses. We come to detect. Detect magic. This one's going to take a little bit of time. And we're going to put it in the sight group. And the single thing it can detect is magic. Do we need any of these other enhancers in it? Range built in, targeting. And I think that's pretty much it. We will give it discriminatory. What that means is it can give us some information about what type of magic it is and so forth. Okay. And it's giving me a warning. Detect should not be placed in a multi-power or any other power framework. Should not, but with GM permission, it can be. I'm going to allow it simply because it's not because it's needed. It doesn't cost any endurance or anything, but it gives me a way of keeping track of it, and it keeps it from being able to be used as a power and then on top of the others. You have to use it as detect magic, um, or one of the other abilities like enlarge person. Okay, and so that's growth. And we're going to put some modifiers on it. We're going to make it reduced endurance since it's the staff doing it. Um, let's see. Oh, yes. And of course, it needs to be usable by other, not usable simultaneously or usable as an attack, but usable by other. And can we do 2 point? Nope, we can't. So we're going to fix that. And this is why it gets complicated, because sometimes you have to come back and do that. All right. So now we have enlarge person. It's going to make them grow to 3.2 meters tall and 1.6 meter wide. Uh, so they're going to be a definite tall person now. It also will give them 10 extra strength, 2 body, 2 stun, minus 2 inches of knockback, which powers can knock the target back, and you can resist that with knockback resistance, which is what this is. And so that's taken care of. Okay. And so the next is a hold portal. But I'm going to make that as a compound power, and I will explain why in momentarily. Or hold door, not Doro. And add a power. Going to have it add 10 strength. Let's see, limited power of. This one loses quite a bit of its power though, because it's only for holding a door closed. Okay. And done. Okay. And then the other thing we're going to add is a skill lock picking. So it can counter somebody trying to pick the lock. Okay. And we can add 1 level with that. And okay. And lockpicking should also not be placed in a multipower. But again, you know, I'm doing this, so I'm going to do it the way I want. This is my build. Um, so there we go. All right. So now you get a plus 10 strength to hold a door. You get the bonus against somebody trying to pick a lock, and or get to at least exert a lockpicking versus lockpicking duel, if you will, at a very low level. But there it is. Okay. And so moving right along. Light. Now here's where images comes in. Images, site group. All right. And let's see. I'm sorry, Wondergoon. I'm sorry you're losing the stream. That kind of bites. I like your input and your commentary. Let's see. We're going to add some modifiers, namely, we're going to reduce the endurance to 0 endurance. And I think that's going to be it that we need. Yep. And add the notes that it creates. a light. Okay. And then here's one of the favorites, Mage Armor, or just Armor. But we will call it Mage Armor. That's a good, not generic name. Okay. And we'll give it 5 PD and 5 VD, which for comparison, this is about as good armor as chainmail. And there we go. And finally, it's called Mage Hand. We'll just call it Sorcerer's Finger. And we're going to make it telekinesis. And we're going to give it about a 9 strength, it looks like. 10 strength works. We're not going to give it. Okay, Wonder Goon's asking why not use change environment for light instead of images. Is there a reason I'm not considering? And the answer to that is you can do it either way. In fact, I'll go back because that only gave us a 1-inch radius on the sense group. But the general consensus is that change environment applies penalties, and I'll show you that in just a second. And no fine manipulation doesn't affect porous. So there we go. And so now we've got a fairly low strength telekinesis that can go grab an object. So let's look at if we'd done light by some other means. I thought for sure there'd be some way to. Anyway, so what Wonder Goon is asking is there's a power up here called Change Environment. And the reason why it's generally not used to create something like a flashlight is because of all of this. It's usually used to create something that's going to cause problems or change combat in some way. Now, that said, you could put up here light, call it light again, and bam, you've got to change environment. But then this would be defined as it creates a light. But again, the reason why it's generally not done that way is because trying to think here. As you saw, you know, change environment normally has a combat effect. And so this has no combat effect. So there we go. And I do notice I have to go back and edit these further. So I'm also going to have to edit the multi-power. I need to put a few more points in it. Because these need to be 0 endurance. Because the staff doesn't have any endurance. And it doesn't drain endurance from the wielder. So there we go. And the same thing for this. Yep, I did it perfectly. Yeah. We need it to be 0 endurance. It's still too much. 22 active points. Okay, so I'll have to jack it up a little bit more. Actually, no. There we go. And that's more in line with what it should be anyway. So it's only an 8 strength. The sorcerer's finger is only supposed to be allowed to like pick up keys and things like that. Okay. And so we need a new separator. Bling! Because that's all the innate powers of the staff. You can use these as many times as you want, however you want. Bam, no problems. Okay? So then comes another power framework. And we'll call these the normal powers. And looking at them, yeah, this is going to need to be up around 45 active points, I think. Again, add a common modifier. It is a focus. Okay. I got to move around a little bit here. Got to twitch. All right. Oh, yes. And the other thing it needs is charges. We'll give it 64. All right. Which is more than the source material that I'm pulling this from give this type of staff. But there we go. Can't always duplicate it perfectly. Yep, I'm on Twitch. Oh, now I get what you're saying. Okay. I had to Twitch because I'm on Twitch. Nope, that was a good one. All right, so the first power we're going to put in here is a Dispel Magic. That's easy enough done. There's a nice little power called Dispel. Okay. All right. And Dispels Magic. So we need to add some modifiers. Um, let's see. I'm trying to see if there's any of these that are appropriate. And yep, there's one, reduced endurance. Actually, I don't need reduced endurance. It's charges. Okay. And make it a beam. Are there any of the rest of this that makes any sense? Nope. All right. Not quantity. I'm apparently getting tired here, folks. Okay. And so using this 15 die 6 Dispel will now take one of the 64 charges. That said, how Dispel works is you roll 15 die 6, you add up the total, and you look at the uh, active points of the power you're trying to counter to dispel. And if your dice total is more than the active points in the power that you're trying to dispel, you dispel it. So there we go. And the stream is apparently buffering again. So, I may put in one more power on this guy and then unfortunately call it a night. Uh, um, simply because apparently things are not working as smoothly as I had thought. We've also nearly gone an hour, but I'll complete this item and a few others in another stream. But the next power I'm going to do is a fireball. And to do that, it is a killing attack, ranged. It would be against ED, energy defense. We'll call it fireball. We're going to leave it at 1 die 6 for right now because we're also going to make it an explosion. Okay? Now, what explosion means is that at the point of impact, you take the damage of the attack. In this case, 1 die 6. It loses for every game inch, every 2 meters you go out from that, it loses 1 damage class. So what that would mean is at the center, you take 1 die 6. At 2 meters out, you take, half die 6. 2 meters more, you take 1 pip, 1 body, and then you take nothing outside of that range. All right. So there we go. And can we make it a 2 die 6 explosion? Yes, just barely. I calculated correctly in my head. Woot! And so, bam, there's our fireball. And like I said, I'm going to call it a night. If the streams are buffering, I'm going to save this to come back to another day. And I may get some more ideas on what to do and how to do this staff anyway. And so there we go. We've got a few more of these normal powers to utilize, and then we've got some superpowers to put into it. And then we'll be done with the staff of mages and get on to a couple of the other powers items that I have on here. But we're going to call it right here, simply because Wondergoon's telling me the stream is buffering and buffering apparently pretty badly. So I'm going to count my blessings and call it before it gets too bad. It may be on his end, it may be on my end. Given the upload speeds I'm showing on the software, it's probably my end. So there we go. I will be back to finish this another time. I hope you enjoy it. Hope you've got some comments for me. We'll talk to you later. Have a good evening. Good night.